Welcome to the Broadside Podcast.
With host, my dad, Andy Elliott.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Broadside Podcast. And I'm here with Andrew, and if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, I'm Andrew Scott Wills, and I am the founder and creator of Hawken Horse, frontier folk music, I've started to call it. And I'm a songwriter based here in Nashville, Tennessee. And I'm an outdoorsman and excited to talk today.
Yeah, so admittedly, I'm found you pretty recently. I'd say it's probably been maybe 6 months or so. And I love the stuff that you put on your Instagram. Like, that's one of my favorite things seeing on a daily basis, because I'm kind of a new fan of also, the mountain men history and the frontier and stuff like that. So we can probably start with a little bit more about, maybe at a younger age, what sparked your interest kind of in the American history and the frontier, stuff like that, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah. The frontier was always a big inspiration to me. I grew up in southwestern Ohio, in the Dayton area. And near there is the Little Miami River, and just west of there is the Miami River. And those were two key rivers in the native culture, like before, the colonists arrived. And up and down those two waterways are just, arrowheads and lots of traces of the past there. And that whole region was heavily involved in the frontier warfare and the long hunters and that pre and post Revolutionary War era of folks like Daniel Boone and Simon Kenton and Lewis Wetzel and then like Shawnee warriors like Tecumseh. And so I just grew up there, and there was history signs like on every corner, and I was very, very into stopping at every sign and reading front and back, much to the chagrin of my siblings, who weren't quite as interested as me. But then I got into some books like The Frontiersman by Alan Eckert, and those got in deeper into the history and the lore. And I started using that book, The Frontiersman. It's got famously like a 1-inch thick reference section in the back. And so as you're reading it, it'll say, number 12, and you like turn to the back and it'll say, this place is still located on this street in this town. And I started using that book as a road map. As soon as I got my first truck at 16, I was starting to go explore these historical locations. So that's how it started. And then Davy Crockett movies and Last of the Mohicans happened, and Jeremiah Johnson. And I was like, so I love the adventure and the call of the wild, I guess, is what draws me in to the frontier history.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's kind of been a new thing to me to kind of, I've always heard all the names and the vague story, not just the roundabout history of it. I've never really dove that far deep into it. And then now I'm gonna butcher this, but there's a show I've been watching on, I want to say it's on Netflix or something, like The Frontiersman, and it kind of each episode dives into a different person in the past. So that's been pretty cool.
I know exactly what you're talking about. What is it called? It's Frontier.
Yeah.
I know exactly. It's well known in my world, and I'm like blanking on the name of it. I think it was made by the Inspiration Network.
Yeah, I think. Yep. Yeah, it's Frontier
Anyway, but
something.
it's got Daniel Boone and John Coulter and James Beckworth and all those guys. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it was kind of cool because like it it's got nothing to do with, I've always heard the name Coulter, but it was cool to like read that story. I'm a fan of Coulter Wall.
Yeah.
And I've got a 3-year-old son who we named Coulter. So
Oh, heck yeah.
yeah, it's kind of a cool thing to hear that story's crazy. That Coulter's Run thing.
That guy was a legend. Everything that he did. I mean, that run alone made him a legend, but all the other things he did on either side of it made him just as much a legend. And that guy, he's probably my favorite Rocky Mountain man. And the fact that he was on the Corps of Discovery with Lewis and Clark, I mean, he was the first white man of, European descent to behold Yellowstone.
Yep.
It's like, it's one thing after another. This
Yeah,
guy, goat.
I don't think my wife wasn't too, I was watching it and I was like, could you imagine being that guy walking over the hill and seeing, because I did a job, I worked in Yellowstone for like 3 seasons. And so she got to come
Oh,
visit. This is before we were married. And so like we went and saw all the prismatic spring and all that stuff. And I was like, could you imagine being, we've seen pictures of it, but the guy who just walked over
yeah,
a ridge line and then spotted that. I mean, she was like, yeah, whatever. And she's not as interested in it as I am, but yeah, it'd be crazy.
yeah. Just yeah, especially when it had never been seen before. That's the key. Like we all hear about it and we want to go see it, but to just walk into it and see Old Faithful, it's got to be pretty amazing.
Yeah, yep. The boiling pots and stuff like that
Hmm.
that'd throw you for a loop, man. So is kind of that um passion for the history and the frontier stuff, did that have anything to do with kind of jumping ahead here a little bit, but your
Mhm.
inspiration for songwriting at all?
You know, probably a little bit, just because I think they both connect in storytelling. I love reading the stories about these frontiersmen, and songwriting to me is a word first art. Like I don't play a riff and then try to throw words on it. It's always about the words for me, and then I figure out the music. Not always, but I'd say 95% of the time that's how it goes. But so yes, the stories, and that's why I up and moved to Nashville to try to write story songs, which you know people have different opinions about modern country music out of Nashville, and but the kind of songs I came here to write aren't in anymore, and so I was getting a little burnout writing "Baby Yeah" on a tailgate kind of stuff, and it was soul sucking. So I was like, you know what, I don't know, I'm gonna start writing something for me, and I had never planned on people caring about this music. Like I was doing it for me, and I just threw it up there. I Free was the first song I wrote under the idea of Hawken Horse, and I threw it up there, and I started an Instagram page, and a couple people were like, dude, that's a cool song. And I was like, thanks, that means a lot to me, because I actually really, really like this song. And that kind of fed my fire a little bit. I had some good feedback, and I was like, maybe I'll do another one. And it's just been rolling ever since. It's kind of wild. And I just found a whole community of people who have that same passion as I do, not just about history, but the outdoors and where those two things kind of collide. So it's been pretty cool meeting all these like-minded folks.
Yeah, so you've written some chart topping songs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna Andy Griggs was one of them, right? Is that who that?
Yeah, that was my
That's right.
first major artist recording ever. And it was a buddy of mine, Chad Tyler, and I entered a songwriting contest. And this is a good outdoorsman story because Andy Griggs is a hunting fool. Like he lives and breathes. He sings and plays out just to afford money to go hunting. Just so you understand Andy Griggs.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So we were in a contest, and my buddy Chad and I, and the winner got Andy Griggs to record their song, and he was going to release it to radio. It was this big deal, and there was all these people that entered, and we stayed up all night writing this song. And the next morning at like 10 a.m., we had to perform the song along with all these other people who were way more famous than us. And the one group who was kind of thought to be the shoe-in to win because everybody was like pretty well known and established and great songwriters. They weren't country boys. And Andy Griggs was the judge.
No.
And
smelt that.
So even though
their
song was probably better than ours, he picked our song because he saw our camo hats and he's like, those are the guys I want to work with. So we won, even though our song probably shouldn't have won. And but yeah, Andy's a great guy, and he recorded "Can I Get an Amen" that we wrote with him. Actually, we actually went out to his hunting property, and if we rode it on the tailgate on a dirt road out in the back of his truck, just wrote "Can I Get an Amen." So it was a pretty neat experience.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, that's cool to hear. Like, not to dog on anybody's preference in country, but I think we have kind of a like-minded thought on that. I can't even listen to most terrestrial radio.
Yeah,
it's cookie cutter stuff's just not kind of my style.
Yeah, same.
But so would you that was prior obviously to the Hawken Horse kind of thing, right? Like that the Andy Griggs.
Oh yeah. That was a while back.
So I saw something else too. I don't know if where'd that go? Oh, you bought a 20, so it all started with a $20 guitar, huh?
That's right. I had a buddy named Michael Cross, and he was getting a new guitar. And he just casually was like, my old guitar, because he was like upgrading it. And I was just like, maybe. And, I was broke back then. I was like, I was 15, I was like, how much? And he was like, $20. And I was like, done. And I remember digging in the ashtray trying to, scrounge up $20. But yeah, I paid him. He took this beater. I don't even remember the brand because it was not a name brand guitar. But that's when that's my first chords, and I wrote a song was on that thing, and it worked. I mean, I was determined, so my fingers were bleeding. It's like that famous song, Summer '69.
Oh yeah,
until my fingers bled. That was me on this guitar because it was so terrible. But yeah, it started with a $20 guitar.
That's pretty awesome. I think I know the answer to kind of one of these questions I had, and that was kind of you're probably having more fun doing your own, like you said, your own stuff for you, and than you ever did kind of writing that other, like you said, tailgate kind of country music.
Yeah, it's kind of like owning your own business. Like you like, you're in control. You're making the decisions. You're probably in a line of work you want to be in because you chose to do it.
Yeah.
But it's a lot more work, a lot more, you know, you got to do things because you're the guy. so
Yeah.
so there's two sides to it, but I am very happy. You know, it's very, and especially after all these years of writing, you know, fun to write something right out of your gut, and you know, and see people care about it. I guess that's the coolest thing.
Yeah. So in that Nashville like music scene, what's kind of something that's was kind of a surprise that most people probably don't know about kind of what songwriters and people in Nashville go through?
Um, in the current Nashville, everybody's got like, I mean, if you're like just a single person that moves to town and that you want to be a songwriter, you've got four roommates, you know, three or four roommates because it's expensive to live here. You've got multiple jobs. You're probably an Uber to your co-write to pay for your gas. You're driving somebody into town and going to your co-write, and then you turn on your Uber program again, and you're like picking up rides on the way back. You're just hustling. Um, the other thing is, you know, I think I've said this before, maybe not on a podcast, but I've definitely said this before. But most writers in Nashville, you're cranking out 4 or 5 songs a week. Like you are like pumping out songs.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, I've been writing 120 to 150 songs a year for the last 15 years, and so not all songs are equal. some some are dog turds, and some are freaking, you know, songs of a lifetime. And it's funny, songs of a lifetime don't necessarily get cut because that's not how it works. So that's the one thing I would tell people is just because you have a great song doesn't mean it means anything. In fact, the song that is probably like an 8 out of 10, that's probably going to be the one that's going to get cut. And you're going to have to play it the rest of your life when you go to an open mic.
Yeah, I guess with that many people, you know, they're doing it and that many songs people are writing, there's probably thousands of amazing songs that'll never see the light of day, right?
Yeah. I mean, and not just right now, but think about the songs that Merle Haggard wrote that are just sitting there that
Yeah,
nobody will ever hear. It's
that's
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So
Um,
modern people are trying to cut those. They like to go dig through those old songs and find gems to record. And so every once in a blue moon, one will pop up and somebody will cut an old, you know, whatever song, Don Williams song or something. But
something from the archives, that's kind of cool.
mhm.
Um, so what's been I think I would say from what I've heard from your songs that Parts Unknown for some reason,
Mhm.
like I could listen to that on repeat all the time. I love that song. What's kind of been
It's
your
cool.
favorite project to work on?
My favorite project, I mean, like any artist of any medium, your favorite project is like the new one, the next one, you know. But the Lawn Hunter project was kind of my baby, I would say, because I put a lot of time into that project, and it it kind of harkens back to those days growing up in Ohio, and a lot of those songs are about those people and those frontiersmen of the 1700s, and um, that one is kind of my baby, but just because it was like fulfilling a thing for me. But like I said, it's always the next one. So the one I'm really excited about, like my next record that's coming out this summer, I'm just pumped about it because I worked real hard on it, and I think it's pretty good. So it may be a canned answer, but it's the truth.
Yeah, that's a double album, right? 28 songs, hammered and how do you even pronounce that word?
Yeah,
Hewn?
hewn. Yeah,
Hewn.
yeah. That's not a word that's in regular rotation these days, but hewn is it. It was a word that was used back in that era. Actually, it was associated with log cabins, and you would have to hewn a log
Oh, okay.
to basically turn it into lumber. And it was so that's the hand method of making lumber out of timber is what to hewn something is. And so the record is hammered and hewn, and it so those represent hammers and iron and logs and
Huh.
wooden
That's
wooden iron is what it represents.
that's badass. And I'm gonna take a wild guess, but the Hawken part of Hawken Horse has to do with the rifle, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, when I was coming up with the name, I was on a 14-hour drive north for deer season in Wisconsin, and the whole drive I was like, what would be a cool name? And I've been in the music industry a long time, and I know how to come up with things that like resonate. But that one just popped in my head because I was like, what are the two things that a mountain man needed to survive? And I was like, his Hawken and his horse. I was like, those are without those things, he's dead. And so I was like, ooh, that's cool. And I'm a big fan of alliteration. So there's two H's, Hawken and horse. And then a co-writer, he was like, it's very memorable because it's almost like you're saying rocking horse. It's got that same sound to it. And which I didn't think about at the time, but yeah. So it's the two most important things to a mountain man: his gun and his
Yeah.
ride.
Yep. Yeah, that's oh, and I'm jumping back here, but part of that John that I was gonna say this earlier, but that John Coulter run or that the story that I couldn't wrap my head around was his walk through Yellowstone, right? Like
Mm.
but that's jumping back. But anybody else listening that hasn't heard the story for who John Coulter is and what he did, it's pretty crazy.
It is.
So Hawk and rifle, I've seen you're pretty into that black powder stuff, right?
I love it. I grew up doing it. My in '75, the centennial year, my grandpa bought each of his sons a Hawken rifle kit, and they all and himself, and they all built one. And um, so when he was getting sick there toward the end, and he gave me his Hawken, and that was kind of like that was like a shot to the arm when your grandpa gives you a gun. You're like, oh, I'm using this.
Yeah.
And man, I shot that thing for the first time. And I keep in mind, I was already loved like Daniel Boone and David Crockett and Jeremiah Johnson. And so to get this Hawken was like, I was pumped. And then I shot it and I was like, and I hit the bullseye the first time. And I was like, oh, baby. So I started hunting with it a lot. Even during rifle season, I'll take it just because I just like that connection to the past.
Yeah. I've been looking at some of those rifle kits and pistol kits, the black powder kits where you kind of get to put your own deal together.
Yeah.
I haven't pulled the trigger, pun intended, on one yet, but I've got a few in my cart. And I just actually behind me, I just bought my first muzzle loader. It's just a new CVA.
Nice.
So I think I'm gonna try to deer hunt this year with it for the first time and try that out and
Very
see how it
good.
goes. Yeah, I'm excited. It's cool to like kind of get back to that, you know, um more traditional styles, like with the technology nowadays and the rifles,
Mhm.
like I'm not saying it's easy to hunt deer, especially out in the West, but like, man,
Yeah,
when you do something with a bow, and I feel like if I pull something off with this muzzle loader, like it's just a little bit more rewarding to me than shooting something at 700
absolutely.
yards, you know?
Absolutely. And out east here, I mean, obviously, most hunting situations are under 100 yards anyway. But even out west, it's just, it's, you said rewarding. That's probably the right word. It feels different when you're
Yeah.
up close and you can see the steam coming off of their nose on a cold morning and you drop that arrow or whatever. It hits different.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
different.
Yeah, that adrenaline's it's amped up quite a bit at close range
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
You so when's that album come out? I guess is one releasing July 12th, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's like you said, it's a double album, and this there's a reason for that. One is it's kind of inspired by there's an old show in the early '70s, late '60s. I can't remember because I wasn't around at the time, but it was called Centennial, based on a huge selling book called Centennial. But it was the story of the West, and it started in the fur trade era, and it goes forward into like the early 1900s. And I was like, and there's another movie from back in the 50s called How the West Was Won, and it was the coolest movie. It's so long, but it like literally starts, I think, in like Kentucky, and it goes all the way to the Pacific Ocean, and it has got every star you can think of: Jimmy Stewart, John Wayne, like it is chock full of stars. But the whole long drawn out saga, I was like, I want to do that musically. That would be like crazy to like cover all these topics. And so I figured a double album was the way to do that. But also in this modern era, the algorithm is king, and it's so annoying, but it's just how it works. And so my thought is I'm going to put out some singles, drop the first volume, put out a couple singles, and drop the second. And so it's spread out digitally, it's spread out. July 12th is the first volume, and then October, I'm blanking on the
I got
day.
11th, October 11th.
Yes, that sounds right. Yes, October 11th is the second volume. And anyway, and I'll have CDs will be available in July with the entire collection as one, but digitally it's just going to come out a little slower. That's all.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool. So yeah, July 12th, October 11th. Is there when's your first single going to be released from that, or
Yeah, some of the singles have come out.
okay.
One is Coonskin Cap
Oh yeah, yep.
featuring my buddy Shelby Lee Lowe. Also, I got to look at my Arkansas Mule that I wrote with Clay Newcomb's going to be on there as well, and Half Horse Half Alligator. Those three, and there's one more single coming yet here next Friday in 1 week, and that song is called Shikanahay, and that's going to be the last single before the album drop.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I know you had and I don't remember the name of it now. Was it free? It's got to be free, right? That
Yeah,
kind of went viral on Instagram, huh?
it did. It went viral on Instagram and uh, YouTube. Actually, I Instagram I feel like is where it started, but it had a million plays on YouTube quietly while I was paying attention to Instagram, and yeah, it blew up, and you know, a lot of credit goes to Code of the West. I don't know if you follow Code of the West on
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay.
Instagram. He's got a lot of cool, post reels, a lot of
Yep.
great content about the West and Louis L'Amour quotes and stuff. But he uses free on a ton of his videos, and it just exposed a lot of people to it. And they're like, "Whoa, that's cool!" And I never had so many people who clearly never listened to Hawken Horse using my songs before. Like, it was bizarre.
I think that's the first I heard that, right? And I through videos, and then I want to say I got a couple buddies that had shared some of the Code of the West stuff, and I caught onto that and was following that, and then
Yeah,
I seen your page and I clicked on it, and then I was like, oh shit, that's where that song came from. Like I'd heard it before I even kind of knew of your music and stuff. So that was kind of cool. Yeah, it was everywhere. Like every time I flipped a reel,
yeah.
there was another one. But
I
yeah,
had
great
friends in
stuff.
Nashville who have been trying to get things to go viral for years, and they're just like my songs in front of their face all the time, and they're sending it to me like, "Oh my goodness!" So
Yeah, I don't think
you
there's
never
a
know.
yep, yeah, there's no method to the madness. I think it's just kind of something sticks at some point and it's just a snowball from there.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so do you got what would you recommend for one of those rifle kits if I was to pick one up? I mean I'm a licensed firearms dealer here. I've got
Cool.
access to some of them. That doesn't mean those are the ones I got to buy. I want kind of something
Sure.
fun to do.
I I mean, when it's new and you want to do uh, you know, like an old school kind of percussion cap and it's like new and you want to feel it out, I always say grab a Traditions or a CVA, because those are kind of like entry level prices, and it kind of lets you get into it and feel it out. Because some people, you don't want to spend a lot of money
Yeah.
if you're not like excited about it. So that's kind of my main advice. I've because I did the same thing. I mean, I got one when I was 16, and uh, I built it. It was a CVA Kentucky rifle kit, and had a blast, making it. And you could stain it any color you want. You can brown it. You can blue it. It's not that hard. Like, it's not like you got to be some Norm Abrams or somebody from some fancy woodworking show. You just kind of it's a fun little craft project that goes boom. And
Yeah.
I, I like that. If you want to get up into that next level, there's Petter Soli makes some good stuff that is right out of the box. You can shoot. You don't even have to get a kit with some of those. But they also have kits. I really like Investa Arms. They make some really good kits. I think about 2 years ago, I got a Hawken kit. I wanted to build another Hawken, and I got a flintlock one just because I had a percussion, and it was a really great kit. But it's a little more expensive. It's more in that 500 to 600 range. It can get up in there, but maybe down. They might have some in the 450s, uh, but I recently got a Kibler, like it's called the Woods Runner, Kibler Woods Runner, and now that's more of like a Kentucky rifle or a Pennsylvania rifle, and it more in that $1,000 range of a gun,
Gotcha.
but it's the best flintlock I've ever owned, and it shoots fast. It's funny because in the movies, you're watching the Patriot, and the redcoats are up there, and they go like this, and it goes clack boom, and it's like this delayed clack boom. Well, it's more an indication of like the kind of, you're using too big a powder to ignite it, and it's got, or too much powder. That's not the gun. It's more of the
Gotcha.
shooter, actually. So because when I shoot, it's like boom, like really shooting a percussion. So it's fast and it's fun. And I took my first buck with it just this past fall, and man, that was rewarding.
Yeah, that's kind of, I think that'd be cool as hell to put one of those together and go out there and actually get to use it. I go down, I'm ADD as I'll get out. So I'll go down these rabbit holes. Like, I used
Sure.
to try to put together and piece together ARs. Well, we can't buy those here
Yeah.
anymore. So, um, I'm a big fan of Legos, and these are kind of like adult Legos, right? So,
Yeah.
uh, I've been definitely
That's
looking for something like that to fill that void because, I think it'd be just so fun to be able to like put it together and then get out there and use it.
absolutely. The Kibblers literally Legos. They're just so easy to put together. They are all CNC machines, so like literally everything just goes together. It's pretty incredible. But and then there's Jim Chambers. He has kits. He has a bigger variety of guns. So like if you're like, I want a Northwest trade gun, or if I want, a vest, like all of those, they've got them. But they take just a little more skill, not a lot of skill, but just more skill to do those kits because they're not as complete. They're a little more rough.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's man, yeah. Um, so who was kind of your favorite, what's your favorite story from like, I mean, like I said, I'm pretty new to all that.
Yeah.
That John Coulter story is amazing. I'm just working through kind of listening to more detail of these stories I've always heard, but kind of
Yeah.
what one sticks out to you the most is kind of your favorite tale.
Wow. The whole life Simon Kenton is, I mean, Simon Kenton is probably my favorite frontiersman. Um, I would say John Coulter is my favorite mountain man, and Simon Kenton is my favorite frontiersman. And Simon, um, a lot of folks out your way might not even know who Simon Kenton is, but he was born in Virginia, 1750 something. You know what? My listeners are going to probably yell at me because I think it's in my lyric. But 1755, maybe they'll let you know. But anyway, he fell in love with this girl named Ellen, and he was 16 years old, and she kind of picked another guy. And this was the 1700s. I mean, you took it up man to man on this stuff. So he went and got in a fist fight with the guy that she picked and got his ass whooped. Like Simon Kenton got whooped. And so then his feelings were hurt, and now he's been beat by this older guy. Well, a couple weeks later, his father had borrowed a tool from his arch enemy's dad, and he was like, "Can you return this tool?" And Simon Kenton's like, "Sure, I'll return it." And see, he gets over there and he kind of ambushes the guy and just beats his face in until the guy stops moving and he thinks he kills him. Simon Kenton was standing over him and he wasn't moving, and he freaked out and he's like, "I just killed this guy." And he ran into the Kentucky wilderness, which was nothing but wild animals and Shawnee warriors. And he changed his name to Simon Butler. and he fell in with this guy whose last name was Butler. And anyway, I'm not going to tell his entire life story because it should be an HBO special. It's that good. But he grows up to be like the greatest frontiersman of the Ohio, Kentucky frontier. And probably the most amazing thing is he got captured by the Shawnee Indians, and they tied him up and put him naked on a horse backwards. And then they started whipping the horse and made the horse run all through the briars and under low-hanging branches, and just so he would get beat up. The guy was tough. He was tough as nails. But there's so many stories like how he overcame it, and I don't know. I could talk about Simon Kenton for hours, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that one out. That's one I don't think I've ever heard of.
It should be a movie. The fact it's not a movie is just a crime. Like, it's un-American.
Well, I was kind of
They'd
watching
probably
those
ruin
things.
it anyway.
Yeah, right. I was watching those episodes and kind of thinking that about, has there been a John Coulter movie?
No, and there was one in the works, like a private one was being made in Montana, but then last I heard, it's maybe they lost momentum. I'm not sure. That's got to be a movie too. There has been movies that have used elements of his story because they're that famous. Mountain Men with Charlton Heston and Brian Keith. They use this Coulter run thing, and that's like in the movie.
Oh,
And
okay.
and Charlton Heston's running away, and he dives into the river and goes into a beaver lodge and hides in there. That's straight out of John Coulter's actual story. And there's another one called Drums Along the Mohawk from the 50s, maybe the 40s, with Henry Fonda in it. And there's a pretty amazing scene in there when he is running. There's 3 warriors chasing him, and he's just running through the woods. And it's probably like a 5-minute, 10-minute scene of him just running, and it's pretty epic, especially for that era. And it happens exactly like John Coulter. Like, 2 of them give up, and one keeps going, and he finally dispatches that guy. And so those stories have made it into Hollywood, but the true story hasn't. So, which is a shame.
Yeah, you'd think like with all the hype and the romanticism of that like cowboy stuff with Yellowstone, like it doesn't feel like it's too
Mm-hmm.
far off to, that some of those stories, man, would make some great movies, but I feel like they just keep recycling the same shit in Hollywood
Yeah,
over and over.
nobody wants to take a chance over there. It's just like, let's make Toy Story 8.
Yeah. Yep. Um, so do you I should probably know this, but do you do any touring at all?
Not 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 traditional touring as of yet. Um, I've made a couple of, like, quote unquote appearances. I've been at the Hawken Classic in St. Louis. Um, the main reason I'm not touring right now is my son, who is going to be a senior this year. He is in a wheelchair and special needs, and I'm his guy. I'm the one that hangs out with him a lot, and so that's kind of keeping me from like road dogging it right now. And but there's no shortage of demand. I've had so many folks asking me, when and where, and I do have to say I appreciate my listeners so much. I was at I went to the Hawken Classic, and I had some folks drive 5 hours just to meet me. And I also I played at the Arkansas Black Bear Bonanza. I played one song on the Bear Grease podcast, and I had several folks drive a long way, um, just to say hey, and they didn't even know I was playing, so they were kind of surprised by that. But so more like appearances and the and podcasts and stuff like that, but not traditional touring at this point. But I hope to at some point.
Well, I think it's actually this weekend. But there's a it's not really like a big huge music festival. It's called Chinook Fest. It's on Chinook Pass. It goes over the Cascades and here in Washington, and it's just it's a small festival packed into the woods, like no cell phone service out in the mountains.
Nice.
So I want to get you there. I think
Oh,
you'd
that
enjoy
sounds
the hell out of
amazing.
it. I got so the long, I mean, it's kind of the guy who puts it on and kind of started it is a buddy of mine whose music is who is the intro to the podcast, kind of a all local thing, but I'm
Yeah.
gonna bend his ear. I'm gonna have him. I think it'd be cool. I think you'd really enjoy like the atmosphere there. Like I've never been to a festival around here that's quite like it. It's just a chill mountain vibe. You got kind of your
Sounds awesome.
all walks of life. You know, you got people coming there that are more cowboy country. You got people coming there that are a little hippie, and then some mountain men people. It's just a great place.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's
Anywhere
hard
with
to.
cell phone. Yeah, if the cell service doesn't work, that's my kind of place.
Yeah, it's cool to kind of see that. Like it's everybody's just they have like a huge tent camp. It's not huge. It's the tent campground site is they hold contests for like a theme. So like and every tent has their own theme where like you walk in and it's like a bar at this campsite. So it's just a good time to I met great people there. I think Shane Smith and the Saints has played there a couple times.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
it's the first time I heard them. This was 8, 9 years ago. I think they played there in a lightning storm, which was pretty cool. But
I met them a couple of years ago, right after their bus burnt on the side of the highway. I don't know the whole story, but I met them like a week later because we share a publicist, but I was hearing their story about how it caught fire on the side of the road and they're like trying to get their stuff out of there. But those are good guys.
yeah, that's yeah, my that's my wife would leave me for the lead singer of that band for sure. That's like her favorite stuff ever. But that's the kind of stuff, your stuff that that music, the less popular kind of stuff that resonates with guys like me who kind of feel like most of the stuff we hear on the radio doesn't really it's not like relatable.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy hearing music like yours or theirs and that style of stuff because it's something I can listen to and actually relate to.
Well, I appreciate that. That's just because we're kindred spirits, man. We're
Yeah.
outdoorsy, normal people.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Normal's rare these days.
Used to be normal.
Yeah. Um, yeah, we're closing in on an hour. I don't want to keep you all night, but I got a few last questions I wanted to get it to you though.
Yeah.
I want to make sure people know that you've got these albums coming out July 12th and October 11th.
Mhm.
And then this one's a little deep. What message or feeling do you hope listeners kind of take away from your music and the kind of the stories you tell through Hawken Horse?
Oh, I love that. I would say, there's a lot going on in our country right now, and most would say not a lot of stuff for the better, and a lot. So, kind of, my message is it's a lot about American history, and I don't want people to forget where we came from, and I also want to. I don't know. I just kind of want to fuel the fire of adventure for folks like us who like to get out there and climb mountains and, put an arrow in the right spot. And, I want to, I told somebody this, I want to be an enabler for the modern frontiersmen. I want to encourage them. So that's kind of where I'm at. I want to be a soundtrack for adventure, for people who modern day mountain man. I want to, because I told somebody that we're mountain men. We're the people who would have signed up back then to go into the mountains. So therefore, we are the modern mountain men. So that's how I look at it.
I always feel like I was born 200 years too late.
Yeah. Right.
That's
totally.
that's where all the pieces is out there. It's kind of random story, but so next weekend, my uncle, he's 10, 12 years older than me, something like that. I don't know exactly. I hope he doesn't hear this, but he, my cousin, he's only like 16. He's got younger kids. They kind of live, they're definitely not, they didn't catch my gene of the family. They're living on a golf course in a big city, right? Which is cool. They're great people. But his youngest of three, for some reason, he got it. He got a little bit of that. And he went and bought himself a dirt bike, broke down. He's got it pulled into the garage. He's trying to learn how to fix the carburetor on YouTube. And, they have no clue how to deal with this. And then so he got a hold of me because his youngest wants to learn how to hunt and wants to go backpacking. So next weekend, I'm taking him on a 7-8 mile trip in for 2 nights to sleep out of the backpack and do some backcountry fishing and stuff like that. So I'm pretty excited about that trip.
That's what I'm talking about right there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. He's like, we're going to look like we're straight out of REI. And I'm like, well, it's better than sitting at your house on your iPad.
Yeah. As long as you're not showing up in flops or something, at least come prepared to climb a mountain.
Yep. Yeah. We're going to see what they're made of. It's a pretty good little hike. I think we're doing like close to 3,000 feet elevation and about 14 total miles.
Yeah.
It's nothing too crazy, but for a couple of guys that have never done it, I think it'll be fun.
With a lake or a stream at the end, at the top.
Yep. Yeah. There's 2 lakes, a couple miles apart, so that you can actually kind of veer off, go to one fish, go, venture off to the other one. There's like four stream crossings, I think, something like that.
Nice.
So it'll be cool. They're gonna learn.
Wow, that sounds awesome, actually.
Yeah. Not to go off on a tangent there, but so your upcoming albums, have covered that. Is there any other projects you got going on you want to kind of get out there?
No. The only other projects I'm currently working on is I also write articles for various magazines, and I'm doing an article with Hook and Barrel magazine out of
Nice.
I think they're out of South Carolina. But they I just did an interview. I don't know if you know the rock band Skillet, but I just interviewed Skillet, John Cooper. I just interviewed him and wrote an article that's going to be in the July issue of Hook and Barrel. So just look for Andrew Scott Wills, written by Andrew Scott Wills.
That's cool. Are they kind of into the hunting stuff? Is that kind of what they're?
They're outdoorsy. They like the whole band. Like John Cooper, he's more like the trail runner kind of guy. But their lead guitarist, Seth, I think is his name. He's the big outdoorsy guy. He and his wife love. If you check out their Instagram, it's always like Glacier, Acadia, like they're like putting miles on and but I don't know if they're hunters, but I definitely know they're hikers, like big time hikers. So
yeah, takes all walks. We can't all hunt.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, yeah, that's a prerequisite or anything. You just have to at least appreciate it. That's
Yeah.
what I'd ask. Is just don't be against us.
Yeah, that's the battle, right? Is we got to get as many people appreciating the passion. Um, that's kind of cool. I've always kind of wondered like how many people or celebrities or bands or artists, we see that we don't really kind of get I had no idea that Skillet was into trail running, right? Like I wonder, I've always kind of wondered
Yeah,
like what are they doing? How many of those guys are out there bear hunting with a bow, but they can't really talk about it because they don't want to lose their job, right?
true.
Yeah.
It's quite yeah. I don't, I think it's hard. It's hard, because I mean we're as hunters sharing it is like half of what hunting is. It's that community aspect, but it's hard when social media like goes to the entire world, not just your buddies, and that's kind of one of the battles I think we deal with is the people we don't want to see it find it, and then it just turns into fuel for their fire. And I don't know. Social media is a double-edged sword. I feel like.
Yeah, yeah, there's a whole rabbit hole to go down on that. Yeah, it's tough because you get guys like Derek Wolf, right? Like that story of him where like trying to cancel him for doing something that's like 50 years ago, he would have been like given a key to the city, right? Like,
Right. He's a hero.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyways, uh, we can close up. Lastly, kind of, where's the best place to get, a hold of your music, or, an album or, physical copy of that stuff too.
Yeah, the best place to go would be hawkenhorse.com. I've got CDs as well as links to streaming sites. If you need a you can find me anywhere. If you're a streamer, you can find me Apple Music, Spotify, etc. I'm there. But hawkenhorse.com is where you can get CDs, and this will be my fourth full length album put out in 2 years and an EP. So there's several albums to choose from on there, and other other stuff. I've got a blog on there and a couple Mountain Man quizzes. I'm trying to work on giving that a facelift, but anyway, lots of information on there and merch and uh, links and all kinds of stuff. But if you want to follow me on like Instagram, it's Hawken Horse Band, and I think it's just Hawken Horse on Facebook.
Cool. I'll include all those links kind of in the show notes. So anybody listening can just click on those and take you right to any of those. I'm gonna have to check out that Mountain Man quiz. I'm going to a backcountry hunters and anglers event this weekend, and
Oh,
I got a few things I'm gonna take that I was gonna kind of like give away, but I might make them have to answer some questions before they get anything.
there you go. There you
Yeah,
go.
I think that'd be
I
kind of
like
a
it.
fun thing to do. But yeah, Andrew, man, I appreciate it. I was excited to chat. It's cool, and I can say I've really enjoyed kind of diving into that mountain man frontier history. I encourage anybody that's kind of like doesn't really know some of the names we've talked about to kind of go check that stuff out. I've started listening to some podcasts that kind of just tell those stories too. So, but yeah,
Awesome.
thanks for coming on, man, and I appreciate you taking time to talk to me.
Hey, thanks for having me, Andy. It's a privilege, and it's always fun to talk about mountain men and hunting and all of the above. If you ever make it out here to Nashville, hit me up.
Oh yeah, yeah, I'm sure we will. My wife wants to go pretty bad, but I'm gonna get you to this festival up here somehow. So I'll be seeing
All
you
right,
one way.
let's
All
figure
right,
it
buddy.
out. Sounds good.
All right, thanks, man.